turned this morning for a quick visit to that woodland over there. That's Ploughman Wood. It's a Nottinghamshire Wildlife Trust site. It's a site that I've known since I was a child. I'm just outside the village of Lamley, and I thought it may well be knee deep in mud. It is, or as the locals to Lamley would always say, shit up to the arse. It's a rather breezy day again today. Slightly cool. We've got a bit of a northeasterly wind direction at the moment, blowing in a lot of useless low cloud, as that often tends to do. But my aim is just to have a quick walk around Ploughman Wood. It'll look a lot better in a couple of weeks' time. This is a fantastic wood for bluebells, but also for many other woodland flowers. And here's the westerly edge of Ploughman Wood. There's a series of oak trees on the edge of the wood here, and years ago this is one of the places I used to come when I was into breeding butterflies, and it was a good place to come and look for eggs of purple hair streak. Found them quite successfully on the lower branches, tucked in amongst the end buds. It's quite muddy, this next bit. Whether I remain upright remains to be seen, but you won't see it if I don't. Well, this is looking along the southern edge of Ploughman Wood. Right at the far end is the Vorstal. Detention centre, call it what you will. The old Vorstal, the original one, has long since gone. These fields in front of it have been left fallow for a number of years now, and obviously attract a whole host of invertebrates. Quite a lot of flowers in here, some nice flowering plants. The southern edge of Ploughman Wood is dominated by oak. As such, it's also good along here, where you can reach the lower branches of the oaks, to look for purple hair streak eggs. Years ago, further along there, about halfway along, there used to be an old cottage. My dad can't remember it because it's that long ago, and he's 90. And it may well be roughly where the cottage used to be. That's where the little area of meadowland is that's here now. There's also a decent pond. That's where I'm headed. There's some seats there. I've just got to continue through this mud, although it isn't as muddy as I thought it would be. I'm pleasantly surprised. Well, this is the entrance. I'm just going to nip off to the left here to have a look over the village of Woodborough before entering Ploughman Wood. There's a broad pathway all the way around the outskirts of the wood, but there's also this path that goes through the middle. It's well worn, especially after 2 years of people taking their daily exercise during the COVID pandemic. We'll see what it's like. It does tend to get a bit muddy in there. But before that, we'll go and have a look at Woodborough. Bit breezy this side. This is the northern side of Ploughman Wood, overlooking the village of Woodborough. You can see that Ploughman Wood's at a decent elevation over the surrounding countryside, and how deeply tucked away in the valley is the village of Woodborough. That's more or less looking northeast. the direction from which the breeze is coming from. Don't worry about it. It'll wash. I have little to no respect for clothes at all. But we're now very nearly in the centre of Ploughman Wood. It's been maintained, by the looks of it, over the years by rotational coppicing. Far too many larger trees, though, have been removed to my liking. But there are some magnificent oaks here, actually. There's one just over here. Quite a huge tree. It's mixed woodland. As far as I'm aware, there's no pine here, unless there's the odd one, but there's some yew, by the looks of it, bits of yew, and also some types of conifer over here, more the ornamental type. This is typical of the understory here at Ploughman Wood. It's just dense bramble, typical of what you'll get after so many years with coppice woodland. The bluebells are starting to come through. It's not a complete carpet of bluebells here, but there are areas that are really very dense. Of course, it looks an absolute picture, as does any woodland with bluebells. Fabulous photographic opportunities. But I'm working my way just off the main path through the middle of Ploughman Wood. I'm cutting through this worn footpath that should take me, hopefully, somewhere towards the little meadow. Right, you'll have to forgive the shouting in the distance. Don't know whether someone is being naughty at the Vorstal or whether it's exercise time. This in front of you, just noticed as I was walking through, and it's a grey shoulder knot, which is the noctuid Lithophane ornitopus. Now, it's a recent addition to the Nottinghamshire fauna. Well, I say recent addition. It was first seen in 2003. I seem to remember Martin Kennewell having that. 2 records from Eakring followed in September of 2003, which obviously were the 2nd and 3rd county records, and recorded it at Eakring a number of times from 2004 onwards. It's well established now in Nottinghamshire, but I did see one towards the end of 2021, and that was the first one I'd seen locally to the Vorstal area for a number of years. It's a moth that's never made it onto the garden list either, and I'm not particularly sure whether it's known or has been recorded from here at Ploughman Wood. But it's a lovely moth. Overwinters as the adult. I don't think they overwinter in plain view like this. This one has obviously been in flight recently, but to see one commonly on the trunk of trees is no surprise. They make very little effort to camouflage themselves, but it's a nice moth. These are all sallows, goat sallow, Salix caprea. There's also some rejuvenating silver birch here as well. These were all cut down about 2 years ago, if I remember right, and on cutting sallows down, it revealed the presence of a moth which was hitherto unknown from Ploughman Wood. It's an absolutely stonking and beautiful species, and it's a hornet mimic, and it's the clearwing moth, lunar hornet moth. The adults are very easily attracted to lures, artificial lures that you can get from various suppliers, and that's the best way, and indeed pretty much the only way you can see these moths. Rarely are they attracted to flowers. I may well drop in the video here of an attempt I made to attract this moth. It was at Vorstal main pit top in early 2021. Here we are, the cracking lunar hornet moth, and it is widespread in Nottinghamshire, a lot more than what was thought. I say an easy way to record it is by the exit holes, and that can be done in winter. If I just come round here now. So we've had 3 individuals within a couple of minutes. You won't think they're a moth, would you? And they spend about a couple of years in the larval stage. The larvae live under the bark. You've got no idea they're there or have been there until it makes the exit hole in preparation for pupation and subsequent emergence. So there we go. The fabulous lunar hornet moth. The feeding signs of this moth are located at the base of sallows, and it's not usually until the sallows are cut down that you can see the galleries as the larvae live inside the sallows. But if you look anywhere from ground level up to about 2 foot up the base of any goat sallow, and you see a hole measuring roughly about 1 centimetre wide, that's the exit hole of the lunar hornet moth. And here's the typical sign of a cut through gallery of the larva of the lunar hornet moth. This is what you'll see, often as like an oval hole. It is proving to be more widespread than we originally thought, and only recently has a lure been created to attract lunar hornet moth. For some reason, one was never made until I think it was early last year, and it works. Leave the lure out in suitable habitat such as this, anywhere where there's a plentiful supply of goat sallow, and within a couple of minutes the males, providing you're using the lure at the right time of year, the males will be attracted, sometimes in numbers. But that's the sign. If ever you're on a work party and you're told to cut some sallow down, which they shouldn't do really, because it's such a good nectar source, but you see that, then you know that the site holds lunar hornet moth. And that measures about 1 centimetre in diameter that way, and across there that's probably about 15 mil, 1.5 centimetres in old money. Well, there's one thing that's very evident, especially here this morning, and that's the increased birdsong. Not just birdsong, but lots of bird activity, lots of toing and froing, and lots of contact calls. Have a listen to what we've got. Well, there's certainly skylarks over the fields just left here, but there's a pair of buzzards knocking around, calling, and a myriad of other species. Have a listen. Might be better with headphones on. I've just stepped out of Ploughman Wood. I'm now on this southern edge, and I'm going to walk back along, and I'll show you the direction that I'm heading in a minute. That's looking over towards Park Lane. That farm is just accessed off Park Lane. Park Lane lies between Lamley and Loudon villages. On the very right of the picture, just on towards the skyline, is another area of woodland. As far as I know, it's private woodland, and it's called Balcourt Wood. But between Ploughman Wood and Balcourt Wood, there was another smaller wood at one time, but we are going back a long time ago. I say, my father's 90 and he can't remember it, but it's on the maps, going back over 150 years. Obviously, with all this area being part of Sherwood Forest many years ago, this would have been wooded completely at one time. This would have all been forest. And it's a good indication, really, when you look at the old maps, how we have lost areas of woodland over the years. At least attempts are being made to replace them. Well, that's the direction I'm heading. I'm hoping that I can get through that gap in the hedge and continue along the southern edge of Ploughman Wood. That's the plan. May well be a 6-foot ditch along that hedge. In all likelihood, there probably is, because it expect there'll be some form of drainage from the pond, just so the pond doesn't get too full. I don't know. It'll be a mystery trip. Got some fairly fresh tracks, and judging by the size of these, I think this is a muntjac. I think it went across here sometime overnight. Compared to the red deer tracks, which is what I'm normally used to seeing up in the woodlands of Sherwood Forest, these are dinky little things. And indeed, it looks as though it's gone straight up, at least part of the way, up this southern edge of the wood. I imagine this whole bit of barbed wire is far older than me. It's not very often you get the old concrete posts in the middle of agricultural farmland. I would imagine though that these were originally put in as a boundary marking fence, separating the old Vorstal from the rest of civilization, as Lamley was to them. One time a day, when I were a lad, you'd come up here, and quite often the Vorstal lads would be doing cross-country running round the outskirts of Ploughman Wood. They used to do a lot of gardening in Lamley village for the pensioners. They used to wear white shirts, white t-shirts and blue shorts when they were running around here. All changed now. The Vorstal, the old Vorstal, when it was knocked down, was rebuilt some years later, but more in your true style of a proper prison. when you stand here now, you wouldn't think it was there. You wouldn't dream it was there. Tucked away in this part of Nottinghamshire. 1st of March today. So we've finally got January and February out the way. In all honesty, they've soon gone. As does every month. As you get older, they go faster. Thankfully, spring's on its way. Look at that. Violets. And quite a few. If my Uncle Wolf was here now, that'd be straight in his buttonhole. 1st of March, and the violets are out. This hawthorn's coming out. I've seen hawthorn in full leaf. That's my next stop. I'm sure flowers get earlier and earlier. And I'll leave you with the song of the skylark.